Hello everybody, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. This is very late in the making. I should have done this like a month ago, but it is my Q1 sort of video thing. I haven't done the freak out tag, which I did last year for each quarter, and answer the questions, and neither have I like made any like stats and stuff, because it's been okay. 205 stars. I haven't had a 5-star, and this is continuing into April now as well, even though the rest of the content won't be about post Q1 books, but I haven't had a 5-star since September 2024. So it is getting on, and I just want a 5-star. Also, I've just come to my attention that like I haven't had one since I've like started back at uni for my 3rd year, so maybe just like the pressure and the stress of having these assignments and things like over my head haven't been like giving me the ability to like fully get to like grips and like love and enjoy reading or a book as much as like previously. It's just a thought, but at the same time I did also have like some assignments last year when I was getting some 5 stars, but like maybe I'm just like much more critical now, I don't know. But anyway, with this video I thought I'd just tell you just like a few tiny little stats of the first quarter, and then just go through like my 5 like worst and 5 best books of the year so far, which is what the title of it will be. So I have read 17 books in the first quarter, 9 in January, and then 4 in February and March, and this came out to 2,087 pages, and then also about 79 hours of audiobook listening as well. And for the star rating average, it is at 3.63, which isn't terrible. I feel like that's probably like average for me now. I don't want it to be. I want to be like the 3.8 to 4-star, like above is what I would like all my books to be getting, but obviously that's not possible. I've also had 1 DNF, but I'm just going to include that as one of the worst books because I don't really have that many to say. Like the middle ones aren't like terrible, they're just like 3.25 3.5 like star averages, which are like fine books. It's just like ones I don't really want to be reading. I don't want to be reading 5, but I want to be reading good books. But yeah, I just thought I would just, you know, go through the worst and the best. I'll just say the DNF now is Sweet Pea by someone Suske, I think. I DNF'd this like maybe an hour into it. I'm not sure. I was listening to the audiobook. Yeah, I just felt it just like I just wasn't connected to the character. I didn't like her. I really loved the series that was recently made, so I thought I would read that original content, because I believe they're going to continue it. I'm not 100%, but like I really hope they do. But in the book, like she had already got to a part that is like that she hasn't yet in the series, and I really liked that sort of like beginning bit, and I just like really just loved the character in the series so much, and just like going from that to the one in the book was just like, no, I didn't like it. I didn't really like the way it was written. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't really feel anything for them. So it was probably going to be like a 3-star or below. So I thought I would DNF it, which was good. Then a 3-star, which I mean, it's not a bad book. I feel like so many people loved it, and it's like it became like so popular on TikTok, and everyone's like, you haven't read love until you've read this and all this stuff. And that is White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. She's translated from Russian by Ronald Meyer. But yeah, I just felt it was fine. Like it was fine, you know. I think it's very good at showing these 2 characters their loneliness and their desire and longing for another connection with another person, but at the same time it is quite like repetitive, and like he just like goes off on all these like tangents, and it's just like sort of get to grips with like sort of what's really going to happen, and then towards the end there's just so many like I'm crying and I'm laughing, I'm crying and laughing. I'm just like, hun, just like come come on now. So yeah, that sort of like brought it down. But I feel like it was fine. Like, I mean, it's a good gateway, I guess, into like Russian books. I haven't like really read any other ones, but I do plan to read some more like Russian classics, hopefully. So yeah, it's quite accessible, it's quite short. So I would recommend it still, but it's not like that all inspiring thing that I'm like, you know, everyone's like, oh my god, it's so good. Like, for me, no. And then I also read the short story that came with it, Bobok, which was quite fun. Oh, I didn't really tell you what White Noise is about. It's about these two people that basically like meet, and then they tell the story, their like life story in a way, on these different white nights in St. Petersburg, where like the sun doesn't fully set. No, something like that. So it's like sort of like white during the summer, or winter. Yeah, summer. And that's just basically it. And then Bubok is about this man that like goes to like a graveyard and he can hear like the graves talking to each other, which is quite fun. I think I gave it around 3 star as well. But yeah, it was alright. For my third worst book, it is Emma by Jane Austen, but it's not really. This is a dramatization by April D. Angelis based on the original book by Austen. I gave it 2.5 stars. It's just so short, and you don't really like get to know any like really of the characters and sort of like what's going on. It's just like boom 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 boom, this is the story, here you go. But this is sort of like a placeholder ranking for it because I did technically listen to this version of the book. However, when I do finally read the actual material of Emma, that rating probably will change and probably will go up. But yeah, I just didn't really like it. It's about Emma Woodhouse, and she sort of like sets her friends up with like different matchmaking. But I just didn't really care about it. Then we have Lynx by Natsuki Kizu. It is translated from Japanese by Adrienne Beck. It's a manga book. It sort of is like short stories that are sort of like have interconnected characters as well, and they're sort of like queer. It's about these different like queer relationships. I gave it 2.5 stars as well. My main issue is that just so many of the people look so similar, and it's so like difficult to like know who is who and who's talking and how they're connected to them, and like the stories are very short as well, so you can't really like get to grips with the characters. So yeah, all in all, it was just sort of like very disappointing, and yeah, I just didn't really enjoy it at all. But I do definitely want to read Given, which the author has written. I have like the whole series apart from the last one, even though I haven't started it yet, so good for me. But that was this, and I would not recommend this, no. Number 1, the worst book I've read so far in 2025 is Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. In a video, I think it was maybe my February wrap up or something like that, I was saying how like if we were playing like rounders or baseball or something, this would never have happened because he'd already had 3 chances and they were all like meh, so like I didn't like it books. So the 4th never would have came. But I did read the 4th book, well, a 4th book by him, and I did not like it. I gave it 1.75 stars. It's one of my worst ratings I've ever given in my time of giving ratings. I just thought it was just so stupid. It is so long, the characters are so annoying, the like narration as well, just like irritating, and I just didn't really see a point in the book. It's basically about this guy that's like set in like different time frames, sort of. One is like the script from this film called Horror Movie that these 2 like young women like created, and then one of the main characters in that is called the Thin Kid, which is the main character of the actual book. And he is just only ever referred to as the Thin Kid, and he's sort of like, so there's a time frame in the modern day when they're rebooting the film because only a few like scenes were ever aired because of like something that happened at the end, and then it's sort of like talking about like the directors and stuff like that. And then there's also back in time when the 2 women like came up to him and was like, we want you to be in this film, and then the actual sort of like filming scenes of it as well as the script. He sort of like becomes a thinking character, and like the plots and stuff do sound like really interesting, like with all of his books, like Tremblays, and I want to read on, and I want to like know like what are the twists, like what's going on here, but they always just like fell flat, and they always just like disappoint me, and the characters always irritating. So yeah, definitely I will never read a Tremblay book again unless like it's like amazing, you know, like everyone's like this is the best book ever in the whole entire world, then possibly, but for now he is a no-go, never again, thank you very much. Now we have my 5 best books. There's 6 I'm going to tell you about, but one of them technically is a reread, like my first reread in so long, and it is still one of the best books I've read this year, so it is on the list, but I just felt like putting 5 in his title just sounded nicer. So the least best but still an exceptional book that I cannot read more by this author, and I do think that she probably does have the potential to be a 5-star author and possibly even on a reread of this book, but it didn't live up to that like wowness wholly for me anyway, and that is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This is one of my 25 of 2025 books as well. I do think this is exceptional. I implore everybody and anyone to give this a book a read. It is so important. It tells the story basically of this young black girl called Pecola, but it's never really from her own point of view. It's about like the parents and the family and the friends and like people that live around her that tell her story. And she is a young black girl living in the South in the 1940s in Ohio, in like post-depression era, and racism and like segregation is still rife, and she is sort of made to feel ugly and unworthy and less than because she is a young black girl, where being white and having blue eyes and blonde hair and like white skin is the like beauty standards of the day, and in many places still is. It's just sort of like how she just like feels such a hatred to herself in a way, and it's sort of like internalized racism, and then also it talks about sort of like poverty and the place of black families and domestic abuse and violence and child abuse, and lots of different pressing topics that are very difficult to read. But I do think the way Morrison writes the story is so clever, and how it sort of like it's from really different people's perspective, and you get like their backstories and stuff. A few maybe I felt was maybe a little bit irrelevant, and some parts I didn't like wholly like or like didn't really fit, but on the whole it is still an exceptional book, and I so recommend it. It's a 4.5 stars from me. Then we have a non-fiction book, which is actually the first book I read in 2025, The Five by Haley Rubenhold. This was so good. This is 4.5 stars as well. This follows the 5 women that were purported to have been murdered by Jack the Ripper in like Victorian era, I believe, like London in the East End. And it tells their stories up until their death. Basically, it doesn't really talk about their death or like go past it at all. It is about their lives. That is the main reason for the book, and you get to know them from like basically pre-childhood up until that point, and like what led them to those circumstances of being in London during that time, and the things that women have to put up with, and the things that sort of women, especially poorer women, or people that get in certain social like predicaments and things, the way they're treated and viewed and have to do to survive in a sense. And it is very upsetting, but you also get to know these women and like the lives they had and their families and some friendships and relationships. And I do think that the way Rubenhold tells their stories is done so well, yeah, I just feel like it's just a very good book to read. It's very interesting, and quite emotional as well, and some parts did feel like you was reading a fiction book, and you were just like, oh god, like what is going to happen, like is there going to be something good happening to her? But obviously we know the reason why she's in this book is because of her death and how this man is so famous for his killings, but this is about the victims in a way, and like giving them a voice, which I felt was so clever and important, and is done really, really well. Next, we have one of the books that I have been most anticipating to read, like ever. It's one that you can never find anywhere. It is His Brother by Philippe Besson. This is translated from French by Frank Wynne. I recently talked about it because it was in my March wrap up. Read it right at the end of the month. But yeah, this I'm gonna give 4.5 stars to. I think with this and the past 3, I'm gonna round down to 4 stars on Goodreads, but on StoryGraph it's 4.5. Still really, really good books. But this is following Lucas, and his brother Thomas is dying from this rare sort of like blood condition where he keeps like hemorrhaging, and it's like set in 2 time frames. The first is like over like between like March until basically like September, and it's about all like the clinical trials and the things that Thomas goes through, and like learning about his condition and trying to understand like what it is and how they can help him, and sort of like the clinicalness and sort of brutality in a sense of the medical like profession and like what is done to him, and also some of the like judgment at the start, because he's like, well, this kind of looks like AIDS, so like, what have you been doing, like, you know, that sort of like inherent sort of judgment in some sense. But then there's also the time frame from around like August to September, where the 2 brothers have gone to their like family home on the Ile de Ré, I believe, which is an island of the south of France, and they're thinking about their past and their childhood and like trials and tribulations, and the way Lucas has always been thought of as his brother in a sense because they're a similar age, and just sort of like their brotherly love and their bond and their relationship with each other, and exploring that and how like important it is to have this relationship. And yeah, I think it is well written, it's pinpoint accuracy, it's Besson, it is like French, it's just like, it just feels such joy to read. However, there's also the like unnerving nature of like the medical scenes and the things that he has to go through, which just make me feel very uncomfortable, because it is something that like is triggering for me in a sense. And I also felt like maybe it wasn't, you know, as good as some of his other books, especially that I've been my favourite book ever, and In the Absence of Men, which are both 5-star books I absolutely loved. This didn't really have that like cutting edge to it. However, I do still recommend giving it a read if you can find it, and I will definitely like want to give this a reread in the future, but it wasn't a new fave of his or mine. Next is my reread, and that is Morris by E.M. Forster. When I first read this was a 5-star creme de la creme, amazing, love it, beautiful, one of my favorite books ever. It jumped up to being my favorite classic. I will probably still say that for now, because I haven't reread the one that can challenge it, Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. But this on the reread wasn't a 5-star, it was a 4.5. And I do think I'm probably still round it up, because it's still a book I really, really enjoyed, but I didn't love it, and I felt like some of the datedness did come through a bit more on the reread. I did listen to it audibly wholly the second time, narrated by Ben Whishaw, which I think is a really, really good narration. He definitely suits this sort of like Edwardian gay man. I just love like the way he talks. But when I read it the first time in tandem physically, was much better. But it's basically follows Morris Hall and him like coming to terms and coming of age with his sexuality of being a gay man in Edwardian times in the early 1900s, and 2 relationships, one with his Cambridge equal Clive Durham, and then also with the gamekeeper Alex Scudder, and it talks about like homosexuality and like classism and just like the things that are allowed to you at the time. And yeah, I do think it's a very, very important book, and I did really, really enjoy it, but it wasn't as good as the first time giving it a read, but still recommend. Penultimately, we have a book that actually really surprised me in why I just felt it was just such a good book, and that is Soldiers Say That by Claire Kilroy. This is also a 4.5-star read. This is following a woman called Soldier. I was getting mixed up. And she's basically writing, in a sense, to her young son, Sailor. And it is set over maybe around 4-ish years, but at different pivotal points in their life and like him growing up. And each section is quite slow paced and like in depth. I can't really think of the word, but like focal on that. But then it also does like move through, so it feels like both slow and fast paced at the same time. It's quite unique, I would say. But this is a really good book. It basically just tells of her relationship with her son, and like the trials and tribulations and the tantrums he has, and the really like the hardship she goes through with him growing up as like a toddler. And then also her relationship with her husband, and how he has sort of benefited so much more than she has from having a child, in a sense. Obviously she's benefited from having this another person, but she has to deal with all the tantrums and things, and he gets to go to work, and he gets to stay home later, and only comes home when he's like, you know, in bed and nice and like is a pleasant to be around. She has all the horrible times when she has to take him shopping and clean him up, and he's flowing things all about and trying to feed him, and he won't eat, and getting judged and stuff like that. And it just talks about sort of like the pressures put on women that are more so than men, and like the things that women have to do, or not have to, but society makes them have to do it. And sort of like the inequality in a way of parenting their child. Obviously it's not the same for everybody, but there is a lot of truth in it. And she also starts meeting up with an old friend of hers, like from college age, and it's sort of her trying to work out, can she really ever become the woman she was before she had her child, or has there been too much change in her life for that to occur? I just think it's just like written so well. It's like razor sharp, and I just think it just like throws up a lot of discussions, and it's just portrayed so well, and I really enjoy this book, and I so recommend giving it a read. I know some people have said that like she hasn't really said anything new, that other people have talked about this sort of like place of women and the bond she has with her child in other books, but for me personally it was sort of quite new, and I did think that the things like the discussions she threw up were decent and need to be had in a way and explored. So yeah, recommend that. And then finally we have a book that was very close to being a 5-star. Like the first like 50-ish% of reading it, I was like, hands down, it's 5-star. I've got my 5-star. I've been craving it. I've been needing it. I've got it. It didn't get it in the end, but it is still a book that I wholeheartedly recommend, and a book I did very much enjoy. And that is The Betrayal of Thomas True by AJ West. This is a cute edition with the peacock feathers, but this is basically following Thomas True, and he flees from Highgate from a repressive sort of family environment. His dad is like a pastor or a preacher or something, and he instills in his sort of like, men have to be like this and women can be like that, and if you're not like this then you're not a man and you're bad and this is evil and sinful and stuff. And he talks about like the first moment he realizes he's gay, like looking through a window, and he's like, from that first moment, like, I am wrong, what I am is unnatural, it is wrong, I am sinful, like this is not the life I should be leading, like nothing ever good will happen to me. But so he flees from Highgate to the city of London. This is in like early 1715, and he starts frequenting these molly houses with the help of other mollies that he meets, and this is the place of debauchery and sex and fun and drinking and just like dancing and just being their true selves, and they're like bitchy, and it's just like such a joyous environment in a way. However, there's a rat amongst them who has been spreading the names to this sort of like Society for the Prevention of human decency or something like that. And also these two judges that are like hell-bent on getting convictions of, you know, men being homosexuals and getting them murdered, basically. And for some reason the people think it's Thomas because he's the new one, and the Molly guard, oh my god, how have I forgot his name? Gabriel, my lord. He is tasked with trying to find a rat, and then also sort of a little romancy blooms between him and Thomas. That's all I'm gonna say. It's just so cute. I really love the characters. I think they're like so well like brought to life. It's just a fun story. It's enjoyable. It's intriguing. You're like led down all these different turns and alleys, and you're like, what is going on? Who is the rat? Why are they the rats? I did sort of get it like later on. I was like, oh, I got it before you. But I mean, obviously he knew the story, but you know what I mean. I got it before it was revealed to us. But like, it's not just like straight away like, oh, obviously gonna be them. Like, you know, there is turns and stuff, which I really appreciate. I did start shedding a little tear towards the end, especially in acknowledgements about how the power of these Mollys to, you know, be their true selves in a time of such extreme violence and discrimination from every corner. They were being discriminated against, but they held together. And what's the saying? It's like always together, something like that. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I think the only reason that it wasn't a full 5-star is that you just sort of miss some characters for some points of the book, and just like the way it went around wasn't like wholly to my liking, but it is still a great book nonetheless, and one I would recommend, the best of the year so far. But yeah, that is at the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will probably do this for the mid-year. I may even do like the proper tag, but as for I'll just tell you about these. I've seen some other videos like it, so you know, hopping on the trend. I'm so craving a 5-star. Like, I need one so badly. Once I get one, I can just be like happy again. So hopefully this time within 3 months, or you know, 2 now, but I will have one. But anyway, have a nice morning everywhere in the world, and I shall see you very soon for my April wrap up. Bye.